Alright guys, so when it comes to beefs, for a guy that had to scramble just 8 weeks ago to find beefs that weren't already covered on YouTube, things have certainly changed. I am going hard in the paint right now, I'm barely sleeping. And surprisingly enough, out of all the tracks that we've heard lately, it was an R&B singer who truly delivered, and that artist is none other than Chris Brown. Literally hundreds of people requested that I cover this Chris Brown and Quavo beef, so here it is. So, Chris Brown and Quavo were not always on bad terms, and I even found a tweet from 2012, before the Migos really popped off, where Quavo appeared to be a big fan. If I ever met Chris Brown, boy oh boy. No diddy. However, Quavo definitely speaked this into existence, as after the Migos got the Drake feature on Versace, they found themselves in the spotlight and soon started working with artists like Chris Brown. So the first one was Moses with French Montana. Then we got Just for Tonight. Then Chris Brown invited the Migos on his tour.
Man, that was a crazy experience, and once again, it was a blessing. Shout out to Chris Brown, their whole team.
Then they did Whippin', which was just Chris Brown and Quavo. They're racing Lambos together. Celebrating birthdays. You catch my drift. Like, I don't think they were just industry friends. I believe they were real friends at one point, but just like a lot of beefs, they start beefing over pussy. So Chris Brown and Karrueche were pretty much that couple that constantly breaks up, having the most drama-packed breakups, only to end up getting back together.
Me and her have a real connection.
I'm single too. Fuck that bitch.
I guarantee every one of us knows at least one couple who was like this. If you go back with her, man, I'm going to support you, man, of course, but like, I just don't think it's a good idea. Now, I'm not a Hollywood gossip channel, and I'm not going to dig into all the particulars of the dumpster fire that was this relationship. Just know that Chris Brown was on and off with this woman for like 5 years and was very much in love. However, the day would come where they would finally part ways, and after that happened, Chris Brown would beef with anyone who went anywhere near this woman.
Fight me because I like this girl picture.
And on the same day I like Karrueche's pics, I like J-Lo pics, I like Rihanna pics.
Told him, I said, look, you have a problem with me because I took a picture with her? Meet me somewhere in the desert.
So Chris Brown pretty much beefed with anyone who even liked this girl's pictures, and at one point, he was even supposed to box Soulja Boy, to which even Mike Tyson was involved.
I'm training Chris, he chose me as his trainer to take on Soulja Boy.
And what's funny is I met Mike Tyson at a meet and greet when all this was going on, and I was allowed to ask him one question, and that's what I asked him. I was like, yo, Mike, what's going on with this Chris Brown Soulja Boy fight, bro? He was like, not happening. I was like, why not? He's like, Chris Brown bitched out, wouldn't sign the contract. I'm like, really? He's like, Soulja Boy was ready. Soulja was ready. I was like, really? It was fucking amazing. And just shortly after, Quavo pulls a really slimy move as he is spotted with Karrueche on multiple occasions.
Ooh, what's up, girl?
And it was around that exact same time where she hit Chris Brown with the restraining order.
Well, Karrueche managed to get a 5-year restraining order against Chris Brown.
And look, women can make us do crazy ass shit when we're in love, no doubt. But in this case, I do believe that the restraining order was probably warranted. And it wouldn't be long after, at the BET Hip Hop Awards, Chris Brown and the Migos got into a little scuffle.
TMZ has obtained new footage of the celebs' cam scuffling at the BET Awards after party.
And after that scuffle, some text messages from Chris Brown and Offset would surface where he challenges them all to a fight. I got a boxing ring, no cameras, or we can just put the gloves on and box right in front of my house. This is Offset. This about a female, correct? This about homies betraying homies and disrespect. You know what it is. You could take the fade for your partner. I'll see you when I see you, singer. And that conversation goes on for quite some time, but really it's just Chris Brown the whole time begging these guys to pull up. However, Karrueche and Quavo didn't seem to last very long, likely just a quick fling, as Quavo would go on to date Sweetie, and Karrueche would date Victor Cruz. Now, things would go quiet for about a year, until Chris Brown posted this funny meme of 21 Savage.
Hop out the 4-door with the 440 was 1, 2, 3, and 4.
And for those that don't get it, the meme is about, 21 Savage and getting exposed for being from the UK. And Offset was not a fan of Chris posting this meme and made the comment, "Memes ain't funny, lame." To which Chris responded, "Fuck you, little boy. If you a real man, fight me. Oh, and another thing, suck my dick." To which Offset would respond, "Cokehead don't want no smoke. Only people you go toe-to-toe with is women. Oh, and by the way, I'ma smack the shit out of you when I see you." But Chris Brown pretty much called his bluff and then just dropped his address and told him to pull up. "I'll be home at 4. No op shit, cameras, police, none of that shit. I'm just gonna beat you the fuck up." And then he dropped his address. Chris Brown's personality doesn't match his music a lot of times. Like he's not as soft as what people think. And just 1 year later, Quavo would win a 2-on-2 tournament with Jack Harlow, to which Chris Brown took to Instagram to challenge him. They knew who not to ask for on that 2-on-2 basketball. I would have cooked Quavo and Jack on my soul. Guess they wanted to smoke free zone. And it wasn't long after that he would call out Quavo again.
Yeah, he was scared. Quavo.
Who's scared?
Quavo, bring your out of here again. I said it twice.
Second time.
Second time.
And then a year goes by where the two were seated next to each other at a fashion show by no choice of their own, to which Chris Brown wrote, "Can't pick who you sit with. Fuck all that gross shit. I'm not trying to fumble my bag for little dudes." So when it comes to that Fashion Week shit, like, I guarantee it took everything in Chris Brown not to put hands on Quavo. And just a few months later, we would get to hear the first shot on wax, where Chris Brown would send some not-so-subliminal shots at Quavo on his track titled Freak.
Okay, now fucking my old bitches ain't gonna make a sequel. Sippin' at 1942 cause I don't do no Quavo.
In the first line, Chris alludes to Quavo's relationship with his ex Carucci, and in the second line, he uses the cheap tequila Jose Cuervo, alluding to how he's sipping 1942, a much more expensive liquor. This is both a play on Quavo's actual name and the fact that Quavo is beneath him in terms of star power.
Freak bitch, she like Casamigos, not the Migos. I don't fuck with bougie bitches, man, that shit is all hot.
Chris then takes it a step further by name-dropping the Migos as a group, likely alluding to the smoke that he had with Offset shortly before. Now, there is a few lines in this track where he's referencing Sweetie that people missed.
She said we should bring a friend and I ain't think about it twice.
Chris Brown states that she wants to bring a friend, alluding to one of Sweetie's biggest records, Best Friend.
That's my best friend. She a real bad bitch.
He then references Birkin bags, which is something that Sweetie publicly got backlash for.
She just want a couple Birkins and some CC belts. I'm just trying to set her up so she don't need no help.
If he's not getting you a Birkin, if he's not paying for your bills, then throw that to the streets, okay?
So Chris Brown is basically saying that he's trying to put Sweetie in the position to where she can get her own Birkin bags and not have to depend on a man, like she stated in that clip.
If you don't like to listen, baby, you gon' cheat yourself. Man, I had to eat the pussy, ain't gon' eat itself.
He then alludes to how Sweetie had cheated on Quavo, which was an ongoing narrative within the media, and a rumor that Quavo seemingly admitted to himself.
Bitch, fuck my dog behind my back, but I ain't stressing. Not at all.
And I mean, she probably cheated on him with more than one guy. I believe she was likely a repeated offender. And with all that said, Quavo wasted zero time and dropped the track the very next day called Tender.
He did a bitch wrong and now the bitch gone. She post with a thug. Caught a bitch phone, she won't come home. Don't beat her up.
In the first line, Quavo claims that Chris did Carucci wrong, alluding to how Chris Brown got a girl pregnant while he was with Carucci. He then references Chris Brown's controlling and obsessive ways by stating that he's been calling her phone and not to beat her up. I could picture Chris Brown just like all coked up, like blowing up this chick's phone. In the last line, Quavo claims that it has to be the drugs, feeding into the narrative that Chris Brown has some addiction issues.
Don't shoot out the party. Don't shoot. Yola, ho, she gnarly.
Quavo starts out his verse by alluding to Chris Brown's obsession over Carucci, where it was alleged that he was following her around to different clubs and essentially stalking her.
Pussy dripping like water. Pussy gon' cause violence. Rich nigga gon' spoil them. You tender niggas a problem.
More the same here. Quavo states that the pussy's gonna cause violence, which is another reference to how crazy Chris behaved over this one girl.
When I fuck on that little bitty bitch, yeah, she do great. When you fuck on that little bitty hoe, yeah, she lose weight.
Quavo continues with the disrespect, stating that when he fucked Carucci, her life only seemed to get better, but when she's with Chris Brown, her life is in turmoil, nothing but stress, and she physically loses weight.
Wiping your nose with the tissue, not wiping no snot. Tell me, little bro, what your issue is over a thought.
Again, Quavo references Chris Brown's alleged coke addiction and states that he literally got bent out of shape over a full-blown thought.
You said it is bigger than that, but no, that it's not.
And Chris Brown is right here. I mean, like, it is bigger than that. Like, your boy is not supposed to fuck your girl that you're with for 5 years. Like, that's just a no-brainer. And now we're completely caught up as just a week later, Chris Brown would shock a lot of people with an absolutely disrespectful diss track, Weakest Link. And that brings me to today's sponsor, private internet access. Watching Netflix without a VPN is pretty much like paying for a business class ticket and then being told you gotta sit in economy. The facts are, if you aren't using a VPN, you are truly missing out on countless movies and show options. Streaming companies like Netflix have different library options based on where you're located, so some really great shows and movies simply can't be accessed if you're not located in that region. Then when it comes to being online, there are website blockers which restrict people from certain regions from accessing their content. I mean, if you're a sports guy, a lot of those sporting events are only available in certain countries. Private internet access helps you overcome these restrictions by giving you the option to change your IP address to one of 91 countries and choose from all 50 US states, allowing you to gain access to websites and services that are only available in those locations. But it's not just about streaming, it's also about your security and keeping you safe. Free Wi-Fi like the kind that you get at airports and coffee shops is great because it's free, but it's also extremely open, leaving you vulnerable to having your personal information stolen, or even worse, malicious software being installed on your device. Private internet access safeguards your internet connection through an encrypted tunnel, shielding your digital life from the eyes of those that are looking to exploit you. Private internet access has a no-log policy that they've successfully defended in court, which means that they don't store any personal data about you, the person using their service. Also, private internet access is available for all platforms: Windows, Mac, Android, Linux, iOS, and many more. And you could use one private internet access subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices at the same time. Signing up for private internet access is risk-free, and there's a 30-day money-back guarantee with 24/7 customer support. To sign up for private internet access, hit up the link in the description to get 83% off plus 4 months for free, which literally works out to be a couple dollars a month. And thanks again to Private Internet Access for sponsoring this video.
Now we can settle this like you got some class, so we can get into some gangster shit.
Chris starts out the track with a reference to the movie The Mac, where he quotes a scene where an escort chooses one pimp over the other.
Hey Chris, I don't want no issues, bro. I don't want no smoke. I don't want fights, and I don't want to do nothing, bro.
So it's a really strong start right off rip. I mean, we've got audio of Quavo here quivering to Chris Brown. Chris then dives into a hook playing on the phone call we previously heard, where Quavo says he doesn't want any smoke.
Who wants smoke with me? Who wants smoke with me?
And the hook is also an ode to Nardo Wick's track, Who Wants Smoke?
Who wants smoke with me? Nigga, who wants smoke with me?
Chris starts out the verse by mentioning his gang affiliation with the Pyrus, inserting that he's not as soft as what people think.
Okay, let's get down to the facts, pussy, I'm dripping red. Don't let this R&B shit fool you, niggas get ripped to shreds.
I definitely acknowledge Chris Brown as a Pyru now.
You don't gotta be born and raised in LA to be from an LA gang.
He a blood. He been a blood for like 13 years, 14 years.
I mean, the guy's been throwing up gang signs and screaming out Pyru for over a decade, so he probably is indeed a Pyru.
Quavo talking like he a thug, nigga, you a bitch with dread. Can't wait to see the day that you back up all of that shit you said.
Again, pretty self-explanatory. A lot of these disses are very surface level, not much depth in terms of multiple meanings.
What's all that ball shit you talking? You ain't no huncho, nigga. You the weakest link out of your clique. Let's keep it a hundo, nigga.
So as everyone knows, Quavo also goes by Honcho, which is defined as a boss or a leader. And Chris claims that Quavo does not meet the criteria for this nickname and claims that he was the weakest member out of the Migos.
You fuck my ex-hoe, that's cool, I don't give no fuck, little nigga. Cause I fucked your ex when you was still with a bitch, I'm up, little nigga.
Chris then acknowledges that Quavo slept with Karrueche, but goes completely hit him up, claiming that he smashed Quavo's ex Sweetie while they were still together. Fucking ruthless, bro.
They say revenge is sweet. Now think about that shit. Don't let that line go over your head. I might just sing about that shit.
In the first line, Chris makes it absolutely clear that he is talking about Sweetie with the line, revenge is sweet. He then goes on to tell Quavo that he might just sing about it, meaning that he will take the situation with Sweetie and turn it into a hit record that Quavo would have to hear everywhere he goes. And he's 100% correct. Fucking a dude's girl is the best revenge. Black eyes heal, broken nose heal. Look at my shit. Broken a bunch of times, but it heals. Kind of.
I had a feeling about that dick. There's something sweet about that shit. I got some tea about that bitch, but I ain't gonna speak about that shit.
Chris claims that he had Sweetie going crazy and alludes to her telling him some secrets about Quavo that he's not gonna speak of. I mean, if you had dirt on him, you might as well have just dropped it. You're already being extremely disrespectful.
Stop talking about beating girls. You was beating bitches on the elevator. We seen the taste. That's devastating.
He then references Quavo's very public elevator incident with Sweetie, which was well documented on camera.
The fight continues inside the elevator with Quavo dragging her inside, Sweetie taking a spill and seemingly being injured while the Migos rapper does nothing to help her.
He then alludes to Quavo falling off as his music hasn't really performed as well since the loss of Takeoff, and brings up the Fashion Week incident, saying he was extremely pissed off.
You doing bad, you a bitch and your music trash. Fashion Week, they set me next to your lame ass, I was truly mad.
He then continues to claim that it took everything in him not to beat the fuck out of Quavo.
All I kept thinking about was breaking your face, but I gave you a pass. You lucky I ain't wanna fuck the money up, boy, I would've broke you in half.
Chris then rebuttals Quavo's previous line about him being a cokehead and claims that Quavo's last album was so shitty that it was used as a weed tray.
Quit talk about drugs, you the only pack that I've been smoking on. Your last album was a weed tray, just some bullshit that we roll up on.
Chris then has an even more disrespectful line than the Sweetie shit, saying that when Takeoff died, everyone wished it was Quavo instead.
R.I.P. Takeoff, he the only real one that got true respect. Crazy how when he died, everybody really wished it was you instead.
I mean, this dude Chris Brown clearly just gives zero fucks. Zero.
My mental state ain't never stable. I know this shit gon' sting, nigga. I ran your ass through the ringer, nigga. You just got bodied by a singing nigga.
So again, very surface level shit. Not that hard to understand. But with that said, let's move on to Quavo's diss. So right off rip, we gotta give Quavo a few points here. A lot of people were counting him out in this one, and he responded within 48 hours with a track titled Overhosin' Bitches.
Pussy nigga, pull up, crash, shout about your bae. Boy, you pussy. Little bitch come dance, battle with my Drake.
Quavo immediately matched the same energy, asking Chris to pull up, and alludes to how he's crashing out over another woman. He then has a pretty good line asking Chris to come dance with his Drake, which is both a gun reference and a reference to Chris Brown and Drake's music video for No Guidance. I found this pretty clever. I mean, I'm a battle rap guy, so I appreciate a good gun bar.
You been fucked your bag up when you punch Rhea in the face. Talking about Fashion Week, you sparing who? Come punch me in my face.
Again, Quavo references a very predictable angle with the Rihanna incident. Anyone who beefs with Chris Brown will likely mention this, as even today it's still relevant, and it's something that he will never get away from.
It ain't nothing but a fade. You know you lost to Frank.
It's all public knowledge, but let's be real. Like, beating up women and gay dudes, that's not earning you any stripes out here.
Niggas ran in your house, tied up your aunt cause you ain't pay.
This line is in reference to the 2015 robbery of Chris Brown's home, where his aunt was tied up, locked in a closet, and held at gunpoint. Quavo is insinuating that the robbery was retaliation for Chris not paying a debt.
This bullet got your name. Don't ever bring up tape, pussy.
Quavo then warns Chris Brown to leave Takeoff's name out of his mouth. And sadly, it seems like this beef is going beyond music at this point. I really hope nothing happens between these two camps, but a lot has been said at this point. Quavo then strategically selects a hook from Takeoff that couldn't be more perfect, making it seem like Takeoff is very much joining in on the diss.
I call your hoe for pussy. Dropping the diamond pillow, talking to these bitches and hoes. Pussy.
And rest in peace to Takeoff. Like, such a dope artist. He pretty much made this track with the hook.
You tried to beat up Tiana, but Usher wouldn't let you do it.
Quavo points out another incident involving a woman where Chris Brown flipped out on Tiana Taylor at a birthday party, to which Usher intervened and stopped it. This would eventually carry on out into the parking lot, where Usher ended up with a bloody nose. So again, as the title suggests, Chris Brown only seems to get bent out of shape over women.
The cocaine got him, your honor. Bipolar disorder, no wonder.
Quavo then alludes to Chris Brown's court case from the Rihanna incident, where he was ordered to go to rehab for 90 days due to addiction issues. And I've touched on this before. I told you guys that I'm bipolar, so I took this shit as a personal attack.
Like, what did he say fuck me for?
It was the greatest, nigga, you fumble. Going outside, I'm watching you crumble.
So, based on the tweet that I showed from Quavo earlier, it's clear that he once held Chris Brown in a very high regard, but due to all the scandals and alleged drug use, he sees him as someone who's now fallen off.
You ain't been in the trenches. We step in the yard, you know how that ended.
Quavo alludes to Chris Brown not being from the streets and references the 2007 movie Stomp the Yard, where Chris Brown's character is killed very early on in the film.
Won't smoke with me? OHB mean fighting over hoes and bitches?
So, Chris Brown formerly had a rap group known as OHB, which stands for Original Hood Bosses, and Quavo cleverly flips the acronym, naming it Over Hoes and Bitches, which is honestly a really dope name flip given the fact that this is the name of the track, and he's referencing several incidents where Chris had issues with women.
Pussy, every time you see me, keep that energy, keep that energy.
So more the same here, no explanation needed for these bars. Now, when it comes to this beef, I would agree that Quavo definitely did his thing, as this track is super catchy and likely has already found its way into the rotation at nightclubs, which is kind of interesting because Chris did threaten to turn a diss track into a song, and Quavo kind of flipped this on him and made a banger himself. It's just the energy of Chris Brown's track, along with his very personal approach, that edges him the first round. At the end of the day, Chris offered up new information that could sway public opinion regarding Quavo, and Quavo more or less regurgitated public information that anyone could find on the internet. And I gotta be honest with you guys, man, like, I'm trying to give you guys what you want, but this breakdown for me just was not that enjoyable. It's just very surface level. Like, what you hear is what you get. Like, there's not a whole lot of depth to these diss tracks. The one that I'm really waiting on at this point is Kendrick Lamar. That's the one I'm rubbing my hands for, waiting for that to happen. In the meantime, hit me up on Twitter. I'm trying to build that shit up. What's_the_dirt. And I'll see you guys next time.
What's the dirt is so dope, bro.
He kills it, right? His Kendrick
so
and Drake.
Hold it, bro. That shit is so hard, dog. Run it back.
And shout out to my dude, What's the Dirt, because I do like him. I do.
Oh, yes, he's dope.
What's the dirt? Shout out to that person. The homie looked like he did a good job.
I saw that clip on YouTube. The guy did a good job.
He did.
He did a good job with that.
It came across my phone.
That's crazy. This guy's the Nostradamus of rap.
Fresh out the club on my way back to the mansion. You know where I'm from, you don't never gotta ask us.